Hello. Welcome to TipTop Tuesday. Today is July 31st. I'm going to invite some friends. I'm never sure how people get chosen to get invited. They usually have like about 10 names, and then you just pick them, and then that's it. You don't have any other choice. So I should find out more about that. Oh, hi, Mary. So nice to say hi to you. Anyway, last week the topic was divine masculine. And at that point I was talking a little bit that we have spent a lot of energy talking about divine feminine and that what is the divine masculine in all of us. And I'm going to elaborate a little bit on that, but mostly what I want to talk about is divine masculine is what we all have to move us forward. And it's not necessarily aggressive, but I do want to comment on men are fierce. Women are not necessarily, are softer. Their bodies are softer, everything. But men are fierce, and they're also, if they see like a big bunch of people pushing and shoving, they're much more apt to get in the middle of it. Not all men, of course. And that's just the nature of the sports-minded kind of guys they are, or whatever it is. You can see a 2-year-old and they're going to jump in the pig pile, and the girl might be like, ooh, I don't know about this. And so there is this kind of aspect of it that helps people get going and get moving. I talked to a friend of mine yesterday who lives in Mexico City. I was thinking a lot about divine masculine and what that means, and how do we as people use that, both men and women. And she was like talking to me. She's a therapist and she works with constellations, and she's done lots of different things. But when I talked to her about male and female roles and what that means to her, she was pointing out that divine feminine and divine masculine is in the mind. It's not in the spirit. True spirit is oneness. When we go into our brains or our minds, that's when we start differentiating and making these choices and decisions. And I thought, that is right, because we all know about the oneness. We all know about the oneness of being, and we can talk about it. There's a oneness with nature. We strive for oneness. In music, we might all be playing different instruments, but there's a oneness in the group of trying to get together and play. So I wanted to then study a little bit more about mindfulness. And some of you may be familiar with the work of Daniel Siegel. He's a psychiatrist out of UCLA, and he's written lots of books on mindful therapy and mindful thought, and using meditation to help with the neuroplasticity of the brain. So I was rereading some of his books this morning, thinking about that, and how does that relate to us? And how that seems to me to relate to us is that because our brains are neuroplastic, I don't know if that's a word, but it should be if it isn't. I'm not against making up words if it works. Anyway, that through mindfulness, we can change our perceptions and our connectiveness. But he also talked about how with mindfulness, we combine and create balance with our brains to be one way or the other. And that's the mindful part. I mean, our brain is not our mind. He also talked about how through our experiences in life, and I'm talking about this too, how it creates scenarios in our brain about what's going on. We have a little group, it's called Next Door. So it's neighborhood things, and it's on internet. and it's a group, and then we talk about what's going on in the neighborhood. It's a large neighborhood. It's not people necessarily you would even know, but you get a drift about what they're thinking and what they're talking about and what's going on. And the topic this morning, ironically, or yesterday, was isolation and whether it's okay to say hello to people if you don't know them. So can you imagine a discussion on that? But anyway, that's what the discussion was. And people feeling, hurt if people didn't say hi back to them, something like that. It reinforced that we as people have this connectiveness for socializing and wanting to be social. And when we do that and just be expansive and open and compassionate to the other person, then what we're doing is we are creating community. Just like every week, I create this community for TipToppers. Don't you like that term? Anyway, I know that's not a word, but anyway, and I do that because I recognize the divinity in each of us, and I also recognize the heart connection between all of us. And I know that we all know that, but I just like to remind people about it. So that's kind of it. I'm encouraging people to meditate on divine masculine and what that means to them, and divine feminine and what that means to them, and work together with divinity, with your whole spirit, because our thoughts are us. They might be part of our mind, but they're not us. Rather, they sit on our spiritual essence, and they're separate. And so because of that, we can actually change through neuroplasticity our thoughts. If we go into a situation and say, oh, that person never talks to me or is always grumpy, and just totally don't even go there. Just go walk in and say, hi, how are you going? What's going on? It doesn't matter what they do. You're staying focused on love, light, compassion, and expansiveness. The more we expand our hearts, the more we can help heal this planet. So that's my tip today. Open your heart, be loving, be compassionate, and you never know what somebody's thinking, because you hardly know what you're thinking half the time, right? Okay, take care. Namaste, and thank you, Mary, for joining. One of these days, we're going to connect again. Bye. Take care.